Hi everyone. In this tutorial, we will demonstrate the procedure to create an Oracle Database 19c in Linux 7 on a virtual machine. It will be a CDB database without Oracle Restart services. In high level, the procedure goes through the following steps. First, we will change some settings of the virtual appliance used in this tutorial. Its host name is SRV1. Second, we will make the machine IP address static. Third, we will configure Putty to connect to SRV1. Fourth, we will set up the environment variables for the OS account Oracle. Fifth, we will change the kernel parameter values to the values recommended by Oracle. Then, we will install packages that are required by Oracle database software and they aren't installed in our system. Finally, we will do the good stuff and install the Oracle database software and create a sample database. Let's get started. If you want to implement this tutorial on a PC, it should have free 8 GB in its memory. This practically means the RAM memory in the PC should be at least 12 GB. In addition to that, the PC should have at least 30 GB free disk space. Finally, the PC should be connected to the internet because we will install some packages on the virtual machine using yum utility. The table in the screen shows the specifications of the database that we will create in this tutorial. It is a 19c database version 19.3. It will be a CDB database with a single user pluggable database in it. It will be running on an Oracle Linux release 7.8. To implement this tutorial, we need to have the following software products: Oracle VirtualBox, Oracle Database 19c for Linux 64-bit, and Putty. This tutorial was implemented using Oracle VirtualBox version 6, specifically 6.0.22 for Windows. This is a well-known virtual solution where you can build virtual machines. Virtual machines created by the solution are also called virtual appliances. This tutorial was implemented on an Oracle VirtualBox appliance with a fresh installation of Oracle Linux 7.8. You can download a pre-built machine from my website. The tutorial document contains a link to the download page in my website. Just be careful to download the virtual machine with the correct Linux release, because there are virtual machines created with different Linux releases. Alternatively, you can create one from scratch. The procedure to create a VM machine with Oracle Linux 7 is explained in many articles on the internet. Just Google it. After having the Oracle Virtual Appliance, we need to download Oracle Database 19c for Linux x86 64-bit installation compressed file. The file can be downloaded from Oracle site. Just search the internet for Oracle Database 19c installation files for Linux, or check out the download link in the tutorial document. Finally, we need Putty. This is a popular utility among the professionals who work in Linux systems. It is a utility that provides a command line prompt to connect to Linux systems from Windows. After we have the virtual appliance ready, we need to set some of its settings. We will configure a shared folder in the virtual machine and enable the bidirectional clipboard setting. Go to the settings of the machine, click on the shared folder, click on the plus button, enter the folder path, give it a name, make it auto-mountable, and click on OK button. And that's it. It is as simple as that. Then go to the network settings. Make sure the network adapter type is bridged adapter and its name is the same name as the network card of your PC. This makes your VM appliance appears in your network as a separate host, and it will be assigned an IP address based on your network configuration. It is not a bad idea to set a more meaningful name to the appliance and put in basic information about the appliance contents in its description. At the moment, the appliance gets its IP address from the DHCP. In a real-life scenario, this shouldn't be a problem for the database operation, because we would have a DNS server which dedicates the IP addresses with the host names. But in my case, I am using the hosts file as a replacement to the DNS server. For this reason, I should make the IP address of the appliance static to avoid the risk of taking a different IP address in the future. And that's what I'm going to do right now. First, I will start the appliance. Then I will log into it as root. Open a terminal window and issue the ifconfig command. From the output, I can get the IP address assigned to the machine. I will just take a copy of it. Then I will go to the Applications, System Tools, Settings, then I will go to the Network Settings, then I go to IPv4, set it to manual, and give it the same IP address. Then I will ping the IP address to make sure the changes were successful. Then I will edit the hosts file to add the IP address and the host name in it. Then I will ping the host name to make sure the changes are successful. After configuring the network settings of the appliance, we need to configure Putty so that we can connect to the appliance from the Windows PC. Open Putty and enter the IP address of the appliance in the host name. Then go to the connection and change the seconds between keep alives to a value like 9. If you wish, you can increase the font size of the text that appears in Putty. Just go to Appearance, click on Change button, and increase the font size. After that, save the configuration as SRV1, then open the session. Let's try logging as root. Here you go, the connection was successful. Make sure the firewall in your PC allows communication with Oracle VirtualBox. Otherwise, the connection fails. All the steps that we have done so far were to get our environment ready for the Oracle database installation. In the following steps, we will configure the OS variables for the software owner account, which is called Oracle. In the Putty session, make sure the current user is root. Then add Oracle account to VBoxSF group. The VBoxSF group was created by VirtualBox guest additions. It allows its members to access the shared folder in the hosting machine. Switch the current user to Oracle and make a backup copy of its bash profile file. Open the file and add the code as demonstrated in step number 21 in it. The most important variables are the first three variables: Oracle Base, Oracle SID, and Oracle Home. Observe that Oracle Home is a subdirectory of the Oracle Base. Although you can set any directory for Oracle Base and Home, it is highly recommended to follow Oracle standard in naming Oracle Home directory. As root, run the code as demonstrated in step number 22 to create the groups and directories required by Oracle software. The next step is to make changes on the kernel parameter values of the system and make them at least the same as the values recommended by Oracle. Create the file as shown in step number 24 and then add the code that follows to it. Observe that the file name starts with the number 97. It is named this way so that we make sure that this file will be the last file to execute by the system when it executes the files in the sysctl.d directory. Change the current values of the kernel parameters. Although the tutorial document suggests to reboot the system, actually, if you run the command in step number 25, no need to reboot the system. You can go ahead to the next step. Most of the packages required by Oracle are installed in the system. However, a couple of packages are missing. In this tutorial, we will install those missing packages. Open Putty and log into SRV1 as root. Then run the code as demonstrated in step number 28 to install the missing packages required by Oracle software. All what we have done so far was done as a preparation to reach to this point. In this stage of the tutorial, we will install Oracle Database 19c software in the Appliance and create the sample database. Copy the Oracle Database software installation file to the staging folder. In my environment, I have the file copied already to the staging folder. In the Putty session, change the current user to Oracle, then extract the installation file into the Oracle Database Software home directory. In the VirtualBox window of SRV1, log in as Oracle. I will log out first from the root session and then log in as Oracle. Then open a terminal window. Change the current directory to the Oracle Database home directory and run the installer script. In the configuration option window, select the option Create and configure a single instance database. Select Server class, then click on Next. Make sure the Enterprise Edition is selected, then click on Next. The values of the Oracle base and Oracle software location are taken from the OS variables, Oracle Base and Oracle Home. Just click on Next button. Keep the default values, click on Next button. Make sure the General Purpose Database is selected and click on Next button. We need over here to set the global database name. And I will change the name of the pluggable database to PDB1. I will change the memory size to nearly 5 GB. Do not enable the automatic memory management. I will keep the character sets unchanged. Then I will mark this checkbox to install the sample schemas in the database. Over here, you can select the directory where the database data files will be created. I'm not going to change it from the default settings, just click on Next button. We don't have currently an EM server, just click on Next button. enable the recovery area and click on Next button. Set a password to the system schemas. Change the selected groups to O install. Mark the checkbox and provide the root password. All the prerequisite checks should pass. If you face any issue or error, you need to resolve it before you proceed. Click on Install button. When the installation reaches to nearly 12%, it will display a confirmation message. Just click on Yes button. If everything goes fine, you should end with this message. Just click on Close button. After the installation and database creation are finished, verify the database is up and running by logging into it as sysdba. Let's check if a connection entry to OraDB is added to the tnsnames.ora file. The tnsnames.ora file was created and a connection descriptor was automatically added to it. Start the Firefox browser and open the EM Express. Accept the warning displayed by the browser. Enter the sys username, its password, leave the container name blank, then click on Login button. The EM Express is up and running. You may consider creating and deploying a script that automatically starts up the database when the machine is rebooted. And that's it for this tutorial. In high level, the procedure to install and create an Oracle Database 19c database without Oracle Restart goes through the following stages. Set up the environment variables for the Oracle OS account. Change the kernel parameter values to the recommended values. Install the missing packages required by Oracle software. And finally, install Oracle Database software and create the database. If you wish, you can download the appliance created in this demonstration. You will find the download link in the video description. Thanks guys for staying with me. See you soon in another demonstration.